Onyx Equinox season finale kind of took an unexpected turn. The whole objective of everything that happened during the first season was to protect humanity. But when the time to close the last gate to the underworld finally came, Izel changed his mind. While it's totally understandable why he did that, frankly, the future of Izel and the rest of humanity isn't looking very rosy. In fact, Izel actually has to physically fight the gods, because otherwise all humans will literally die. So yeah, Izel's story is far from over, which is why we've gathered here today in order to discuss what exactly is going to happen from now on. In this video, we are taking a closer look at all story elements that could be of importance in a second season, and these can be roughly divided into issues that concern the gods and issues that concern Izel and humanity. Humanity's champion failed to close all gates to the underworld. In other words, Quetzlcoatl lost the bet, and all blood sacrifices meant for him now belong to Tezcatlipoca. That wouldn't be a big deal if blood sacrifices were something like the money of the gods, but blood sacrifices are to gods what food and water are to us, meaning that Quetzlcoatl is facing death if he doesn't do something about it. The season 1 finale teased that he is already cooking up a new plan to get out of his misery though. He suggested that he and Mictecacihuatl work together, although he rather spelled out that they need to work together. It's rather obvious why Quetzlcoatl needs Mictecacihuatl's help. The bat caused him to lose a lot of power, and in his current state he probably wouldn't stand a chance in a fight against Tezcatlipoca to get his sacrifices back. So whatever it is he is planning exactly, he desperately needs the brawn to his brain. Moreover, I guess that as the queen of the underworld, Mictecacihuatl may be able to keep Quetzlcoatl alive for a little while by sharing some power or blood of the dead with him. But what can he offer Mictecacihuatl? In season 1, her desires revolved around Yautl, but that chapter seems to be closed for now. What else could she be interested in? First of all, the celestial gods, except Quetzlcoatl, want to destroy and rebuild humanity. If they do that and take all their blood, Mictecacihuatl will starve just like Quetzlcoatl, so she's got at least one reason to oppose them. In addition to that, season 1 revealed that she despises the other gods and values the emotional life of the mortals. The other gods view humans as nothing but their source of power and their play toys. Mictecacihuatl's philosophy heavily differs from theirs, mostly because she was born immortal herself and is able to understand emotions like love and happiness, what drives her to interfere with the celestial god's actions. Quetzalcoatl could therefore take advantage of his position as a celestial god to provide Mictecacihuatl with information on the other gods' plans. On top of that, he could go as far as subtly directing the celestial god's actions to play into Mictecacihuatl's and his own hands. Responding to Quetzalcoatl's offer, Mictecacihuatl listened to his plans, and I'm convinced that she chose to cooperate with him once more. The very last scene showed her eating her ex-husband, Tezcatlipoca, what I believe is one of the first steps of Quetzalcoatl's plan to gather new strength for a war against Tezcatlipoca. Now concerning Tezcatlipoca, after gaining lots of new strength, he occupied himself with humanity's execution straight away and threw an entire city into chaos, thereby obtaining more and more power. With all that blood he's been getting, we can assume that he may be a little overpowered at the moment. While that certainly is bad news to Quetzalcoatl as well as to Izel, Tezcatlipoca does give off serious main villain vibes, and I can't deny that I'm totally digging it. Tezcatlipoca's objectives have been mostly revealed already, but there is still one enormous mystery left wide open. In the city he destroyed, he sought out a certain man. Judging from his appearance and attire, presumably he fills a position of religious importance. Tezcatlipoca told him they needed to talk about the boy, what obviously refers to Izel. First question, why does Tezcatlipoca want to talk about Izel? In the season 1 finale, Tezcatlipoca was absolutely down to kill Izel right on the spot, and if that was what he aims to do still, he'd have no incentive to do research on him beforehand. Tezcatlipoca must have discovered an issue that hinders him from killing Izel. Could the curse of the underworld be connected to this somehow? I feel like the curse should carry more importance besides being a magnet for monsters, so conceivably it may be brought up again. The circumstances that impede Tezcatlipoca's actions may be something different though, and could indeed be something only this man knows about. Second question, who is he and what connects him to Izel? The first event in Izel's life we know of, and possibly also his first real memory, is how he and Nelli were taken in by Kin and June's father, and we substantially know of everything that went down after that, meaning meaning that most likely this man stood in contact with Izel before all of that. Given that Izel was just a toddler back then, it's plausible to believe he could be their father. Assuming that's true, why were Nelli and Izel wandering around all on their own? The fact that the man apparently knew Izel was alive, plus his evil smile, are proof enough that it was no accident they were separated from their parents. Maybe their father intentionally abandoned them, and his reason for doing so is directly connected to the information Tezcatlipoca is looking for. Apart from that, there are still 2 unnamed celestial gods that did not play any major part in season 1. And on top of that, in total there are about 200 gods and goddesses in Aztec mythology. That can be divided into 3 categories, which are the heaven, war and sacrifice, and the rain and fertility. While the show already introduced gods from the first 2 categories, the last category hasn't really been addressed yet. Since Izel set his mind on standing up to all gods, it seems likely that we will get to know more of them in later seasons. And that is awesome for 3 main reasons. Firstly, because we will learn more about the Mesoamerican culture. Secondly, we get to see more stunning character designs and great combat scenes against new foes with new abilities. Lastly, just like all the gods we know so far, the remaining ones most likely have personal goals too, thus may have even formed their own alliances at this point. It is to be expected that Onyx Equinox's story turns from a rather observable string of action into a more complex network of counterparties. Is Nelli an emissary? In the season 1 finale, Quetzlcoatl spoke to a bird and seemingly called it Nelli. Based on Yaotl's past, we know that gods turn their emissaries into their spirit animal. Since Quetzalcoatl has been depicted with feathers in every form he has taken on, it is reasonable to assume his emissary would be a feathered animal, like a bird or a feathered serpent. Unlike Yaotl though, Nelli was not chosen to become an emissary during her lifetime, but conceivably that may simply be an act of formality, and in the end it is the god who receives the sacrifice that can decide if they want to make someone their emissary. Summed up, Nelli could still be alive. However, it is not certain if she has any memories of her mortal life, since Yaotl did not. Unfortunately, we do not have any information if every soul that becomes an emissary loses their memories, or if Tezcatlipoca purposely erased Yaotl's to mess with Mictecacihuatl. At any rate, it is crucial knowing why Quetzalcoatl chose to make her an emissary. He told Nelli, so far they are doing good, sounding strongly like the season finale's events played out exactly like he expected them to. He may have planned all of this, including losing the bet. After all, when he first came to an agreement with Mictecacihuatl, he allowed her to stop Izel if he was about to close the last gate. What basically means he never really intended to win the bet. I wonder what he has in mind for Nelli's and Izel's future, and if maybe he even pulled some strings so that Nelli would become a sacrifice and he could implement his plan. How will Izel's journey continue, and is humanity really doomed? Izel chose not to close the gate, thereby accepting that Tezcatlipoca is going to destroy humanity. Throughout the entire first season, it was proven over and over that humans do not stand a chance against the gods and all creatures they command. To quote Yaotl, Izel needs capable allies if he wants to survive what's coming. He told the group to go to Tenochtitlan because great warriors live there. It's likely that these great warriors have divine powers of some kind, like the Flyers for example, since I cannot imagine Yaotl suggesting seeking allies in warriors of mediocre skill, especially because Yaotl knows exactly what overwhelming terrors await Izel and his friends. Maybe the warriors can further instruct Kin, June and Shanasuku on how to upgrade their abilities. I doubt that the gods will immediately erase all of humanity in one swipe. After all, their powers are also limited. Consequently, Izel has some time to seek and mobilize allies and brace them for what's coming. Unfortunately, convincing people that their gods are the bad guys is not going to be an easy task, especially when you're a 12-year-old boy who's been cursed by the underworld. It will be interesting to see how or whether the main characters overcome this problem, and I'm excited to find out in which direction the story writers decide to lead the story, because they've already shown numerous times that they do not fear spilling some blood when it is the most realistic thing to happen. The best scenario that could occur is that Izel finds a way to cooperate with his former enemies, Quetzlcoatl and Mictecacihuatl. While his anger towards the gods does not exclude these two, he will need every ally and every ounce of strength he can get to defeat the other gods. Moreover, these two could play an important part in convincing their worshippers to follow Izel. Quetzalcoatl and Mictecacihuatl do have individual goals, but for now, joining forces forces would be the rational strategy to follow for the purpose of defeating a common enemy. Is Keen going to betray the group? In the final episode, after the group of friends fled the scene, Keen was clearly dissatisfied with Izel's decision. In addition to that, there was this particular shot where he stayed behind for a second before joining the others, and that was like the perfect subtle imagery of someone drifting away from their group. Keen is downright the type of person that will pursue his goals even if he must do it alone. It would not surprise me if he believes he can somehow avoid the war against the gods by seeking a deal with Tezcatlipoca, who could use Keen to gain an advantage over Izel and his allies. In accordance with this, as the first season was progressing, the number of times Keen and June were in disagreement increased, and June is now noticeably closer to Izel and Shinasuku than Keen is. Perhaps Keen will start feeling like June is drifting away from him, what could be one of the factors that cause him to betray his friends. At the time of recording this video, a second season has not been confirmed yet, but Onyx Equinox has been received very well, so a second season is not unlikely. If you enjoyed the show, you can show your support and increase the chances of a new season by rating the show on Crunchyroll and recommending it to your friends. For further updates, subscribe to Frogtoons. See you next time.